I only found out after my death that my wealthy biological parents never wanted to take me back, but they were bound to a system. If they didn't complete the targeting mission on me, they would die. That's the only reason they begrudgingly brought me home. The new house they gave me was filled with formaldehyde. They took me away during the college entrance exam. The blind date they arranged for me turned out to be a man with severe bipolar disorder. Eventually, he pushed me off a high-rise building. That's how I died. Not a single tear was shed by anyone in the family. Only then did I realize, despite the system's pressure, my family always loved the fake daughter more. When I opened my eyes again, I had been reborn. On the very day I was brought home, seeing my father about to give me that toxic house, the fake daughter Bella sneered and said, "Sister Freya, what a fantastic gift. You'd better not let Dad down. Go on, move in right away." But in this life, I didn't accept it with gratitude and tears. Instead, I smiled wickedly. "Since you think this villa is so nice, I'll gift it to you as a welcome present, dear sister." Bella was clearly upset by my arrival. In the garden, she overturned a pot of lollipop roses. In the corridor, she kicked over an antique vase. Bella was known as the little princess of the Scott family, pampered and spoiled, with no regard for rules or consequences. Even when the floor was covered in broken porcelain, Mrs. Scott didn't blame her at all. She coaxed her gently, "Sweetheart, don't throw a tantrum, you know we had no choice." Bella pointed to her own nose and shouted, "Then you're not allowed to favor her, even if she's your biological daughter. Oh, my darling, you're the apple of my eye. How could mommy ever not favor you?" Mrs. Scott's bias was obvious. So obvious she didn't even bother pretending to care about me, even though she needed to complete a mission involving me. Unfortunately, in my previous life, I was too excited by the thought of getting a new house from my real father to notice their conversation. As we passed the corridor, Mr. Scott pointed to a small pink two-story house in the backyard and said, "Freya, we don't have enough rooms in the house, so I had this built just for you. The whole thing is yours." At the sight of the pink house, Bella, who had just been throwing a tantrum, suddenly let out a snort of laughter. She crossed her arms, turned to me with a smirk, and said, "Sister Freya, this gift is amazing. You can't waste Dad's kindness. Hurry up and move in." Having grown up in an orphanage, I regarded the Scott family as my true family. The moment I was brought back, I believed every word they said without question. I didn't catch the sarcasm or malice in Bella's voice. I didn't suspect that Mr. Scott might actually want me dead. With a grateful heart, I moved into the house, but every night, I struggled to breathe. My throat tightened. I had dizzy spells. Later, I started getting frequent nosebleeds. Still, I never suspected the house. It wasn't until after I died that I learned the truth. The house was built with substandard materials ordered online by Mr. Scott. He had the walls painted with cheap toxic paint and covered in the lowest quality wallpaper. All the furniture was made from low-grade glue-bonded particle board. The entire place was soaked in formaldehyde, and the location, it used to be the Scott family's doghouse. Now, just like in my previous life, Mr. Scott handed me the keys to the house. "Here are the keys. There are rooms both upstairs and downstairs. You can pick whichever you like, Freya." That's when I suddenly heard a mechanical voice inside Mr. Scott's head. "Host, please note, if the target likes the accommodation, family affection points will increase. If not, they will decrease. Once affection points reach 100, the mission will be a success. If they fall to -100, the mission fails and the host will be terminated." I never expected to hear the system's voice in this life. In my previous life, I only found out about the system after I died, and I had never heard it speak. Thankfully, the heavens showed me mercy, giving me another chance, and letting me hear their system. This time, I won't yearn for family or affection. I'll only do what benefits me. I took the keys. Mr. Scott's lips curled into a smug smile, as if he'd already expected me to accept them. Bella laughed even more gleefully, but the next second, her smile froze on her face, because I handed the keys to her instead. "Since you like this house so much, Bella, I'm giving it to you as a welcome gift." I even smiled sweetly and urged, "Go on now, move in quickly." Wasn't Bella his precious little princess? Let's see what Mr. Scott chooses, his own life or his darling daughter. The Scott family clearly hadn't expected this twist. Bella, Mr. Scott, and Mrs. Scott all stood frozen in shock. Bella was the first to react. She flung the keys back at me. "Are you nuts? Who wants to live in your dog?" Terrified she'd say too much, Mr. Scott quickly cut her off. "We already said it's for Freya. Of course Freya's the one who should live there. Freya, this is something Daddy specially prepared for you. After all these years of you being lost out there, I feel terribly guilty. This is my way of making it up to you." "Yeah, Freya," Mrs. Scott added. "Bella already has her own room." I raised an eyebrow and smiled. "Then how about we switch? Bella can have the new house, and I'll take her room." Just then, a young man stormed in from outside, pointing at me with fury. "Who the hell do you think you are? You think you're worthy of taking my sister's room?" That was Grant, my biological brother. He'd always treated Bella like a precious gem, and because Bella hated me, so did he. In my last life, after I moved in, he never once looked at me kindly. He scolded or insulted me constantly. "If you don't like it, then get out of our house right now," he growled, reaching out to shove me, but before his hand could touch me, Mr. Scott blocked him, because the system in his head was already counting down. "Host alert, the target is dissatisfied with the living arrangement. Affection points are rapidly falling, -5, -10, -15, Mr. Scott's eyes turned bloodshot in panic. He suddenly barked, "Do what Freya says. Bella, move to the new house. Let Freya have your room." I nearly burst out laughing. So, he didn't love his adopted daughter all that much after all. After I died in the last life, I'd overheard Mr. Scott mumbling that he poisoned the house just to give Bella peace of mind. But now, to save his own skin, he was actually willing to send his precious Bella into that toxic house. "Dad." Bella stared at him in disbelief. Mr. Scott had always spoiled her to the point where he wouldn't even raise his voice. She couldn't believe he was actually forcing her to switch rooms, just like before. She pouted and wheedled. "You said I was your one and only baby. Why should I give up my room to her?" "I won't." But this time, Mr. Scott didn't indulge her. He snapped. "Enough, I said move. So move." Bella was dumbstruck. Mrs. Scott and Grant looked like they'd just been hit in the head. They gaped at Mr. Scott, stunned. Mr. Scott ignored them. He turned to me, smiling awkwardly. "Freya, I'll have Bella's things moved right away. The room will be cleared out for you. I promise you'll be happy with it." Only then did I nod. The affection points in his head finally stopped dropping, settling at -40. Bella refused to live in the toxic house. She also refused the guest room. She made a huge scene and threatened to run away from home. To calm her down, Mrs. Scott offered her the master bedroom, and to soothe her further, Grant transferred her several large sums of money. Only then did Bella reluctantly settle down. That evening, as I was passing the study with a glass of milk, I overheard Mrs. Scott and Grant furiously confronting Mr. Scott. Mrs. Scott was fuming. "And you still dare call yourself a daughter lover? This is how you treat our girl. I finally see you for what you are, a liar." Mr. Scott tried to explain. "You think I don't love Bella, but this is a mission from the system. If I don't let them switch rooms, the affection points keep dropping. I can't die over something this small, can I?" Mrs. Scott was emotional. "I told you from the start, ignore that stupid system. Bella doesn't like Freya. We shouldn't have brought her back. What good could come from a girl raised in an orphanage? But you wouldn't listen. Now look at you, being manipulated by her. I heard the binding alert too," she added. "I ignored it, and look, I'm still alive and fine. In the end, you're just selfish. A bit of system pressure and you abandoned your precious daughter. Zoe, you don't deserve to be Bella's father. If it were me, I'd rather die than let my baby girl suffer even a little." Grant scoffed coldly from the side. "So what if there's a system? I don't believe a girl raised in an orphanage, ugly and not even fit to touch Bella's toes, could possibly be that hard to win over. Just give her some crumbs, and she'll fall right into our trap." I let out a quiet laugh and went to rest in Bella's former spacious and beautifully decorated room. It was Bella's birthday. Scott had arranged a grand party for her at a hotel. But with my sudden appearance, and the fact that I shared a birthday with Bella, they had no choice but to prepare birthday attire, jewelry, and gifts for me at the last minute. The dress was urgently purchased by Mr. Scott, eager to earn some family affection points. He chose an extremely expensive new designer piece despite the rush. It was no less luxurious than Bella's. Bella was furious with Mr. Scott. When she saw the dress he had prepared for me, she became even more enraged. She threw a tantrum, screamed that she hated him, and shouted for him to get out, banning him from attending her birthday party at the hotel. Mr. Scott tried to defend himself, saying he was merely responding to the situation, but Bella wouldn't listen. Spoiled as always, Bella had the support of Mrs. Scott and Grant, who also helped throw Mr. Scott out. Flushed with anger, Mr. Scott cursed, "Ungrateful brats," and slammed the door on his way out. Mrs. Scott had a custom pink diamond necklace made for Bella. It sparkled so brilliantly that I almost went blind looking at it. Mrs. Scott looked at Bella, dressed like a princess, her eyes practically overflowing with adoration. Just then, a voice from the system in her head rang out, "Host, please begin your mission. You can give the target a birthday gift. If they're in a good mood, family affection points will increase. Reach 100 points and the mission is a success. If it drops to -100, the host will be terminated." Friendly reminder, dropping below -50 at once will result in a 1-minute electric shock warning punishment. Affection points falling, -5, -10, -15. It was only then that Mrs. Scott seemed to remember me. She casually removed her pearl earrings and handed them to me. "Freya, happy birthday," when I didn't take them, and kept staring at Bella's necklace. A flicker of disgust flashed in Mrs. Scott's eyes, though she quickly put on a smile. "Sorry. I didn't know you were coming back, so I didn't have time to prepare a gift. You look like a sensible child. I'm sure you won't blame your mother and will understand her, right? In my previous life, she used this same emotional manipulation. I longed for a mother's love and tried so hard to be the obedient daughter she wanted, never fighting, never asking for anything. Because of that, she easily succeeded in her mission and discarded me right after, even when I died. I never received a single ounce of her affection. Just like in that life, she now shoved the pearl earring, still bearing traces of dead skin, towards me. "These are my favorite earrings. Now I'm giving them to you. I hope you like them." I remembered how much I had treasured this gift after believing her lies. Now, I couldn't be more disgusted. I tilted my head and said bluntly, "What should I do? I don't like this gift at all." Mrs. Scott froze. After a moment, she forced herself to ask, "Then what do you want?" I pointed straight at the necklace on Bella's neck and smiled provocatively. "I want that one. Go get it for me." Mrs. Scott instinctively screamed, "Absolutely not. Don't even think about it." Then the system's warning voice began to count down urgently. "Host alert. Affection points below -50. Electric shock punishment imminent. 5, 4, 3. Though Bella had always felt secure in Mrs. Scott's favoritism, after witnessing how Mr. Scott was treated, she couldn't help but whimper, "Mom, I'm not giving her my necklace. You're not going to force me like Dad did, right? If you do, I'd rather run away and never see you again." Mrs. Scott assured her, "Don't worry, sweetheart, I'd never make you give up anything." Satisfied, Bella proudly flipped me off, but before she could even finish the gesture, Mrs. Scott, now convulsing from the electric shock, suddenly rushed over and began yanking the necklace from Bella's neck. "I'm sorry, baby. Let her have it just this once. I'll get you a better one tomorrow. I promise." Bella was so stunned she forgot to react. I smirked coldly. So even the ever-doting Mrs. Scott could be forced to compromise. They never knew pain until the punishment landed on themselves. She once swore she'd rather die than let the adopted daughter suffer. But now, far from dying, she was already trying to force her beloved daughter to give in. Realizing what was happening, Bella resisted fiercely. She clutched the necklace and screamed, "I won't give it up. If you really want it that bad, then strangle me with it." Mrs. Scott's grip wavered, loosening, then tightening again. Her twisted face showed just how agonized she was. The necklace cut into Bella's neck, drawing blood. Seeing her baby injured made Mrs. Scott panic. At that moment, the electric shock ended. She quickly let go of the necklace and turned to me. "Freya, how about I custom make you a new one? I promise it'll be identical to Bella's." "Okay." Mrs. Scott was the greediest of them all in the Scott family. She wanted everything. She wanted to keep her image as the perfect mother who doted on her biological daughter, and she also wanted to succeed in her system mission. In my previous life, desperate for a mother's love, I was her obedient little puppet. She used her status as a mother to manipulate me and easily cleared the mission while keeping up her facade, but this time, I wasn't that desperate dog chasing love. The balance had shifted. She had to make a choice now, and once the punishment passed, she tried again to have it both ways. I raised an eyebrow and agreed lightly, sure, but no need to go through all that trouble, just give me the cash equivalent, however much that necklace cost. Pay me that, Mrs. Scott visibly relaxed. Bella proudly lifted her chin and flipped me off again, thinking she had won. She thought that by clinging to Mrs. Scott's favoritism, she had everything under control, but the truth was, I never really wanted the necklace. I cared more about its value, so I once again helped Mrs. Scott maintain her precious balance, because this time, I didn't want love, I wanted money, cold, hard cash I could hold in my hands. After being resented by his adopted daughter and rejected by his wife and son, Mr. Scott gave up trying to explain himself. He focused solely on earning affection points from me. He showered me with clothes and jewelry, instructed the kitchen to cater every meal to my taste, assigned a personal car and driver to me, and constantly found excuses to transfer money to my bank account. Over and over again, every holiday, even obscure ones, he'd transfer money to me, calling it holiday allowance. Everything he gave me was the best and most expensive. Even my school transfer was to the most expensive elite private high school. In my last life, the Scotts also transferred me to this school, but it wasn't for my sake, it was just close to home, so they could easily summon me as a tool for their system tasks. Bella also attended this school, and in that life, she treated me like a parasite, claiming I was an orphan clinging to their family, since the Scotts never revealed my identity, and I'd grown up neglected in an orphanage. I looked pitiful compared to all the well-dressed rich girls. Naturally, everyone believed her. Bella treated me like her maid, sending me for bubble tea, snacks, homework help, or even to deliver gifts to boys she liked. If I refused, she'd cry to Grant and accuse me of bullying her. Then Grant, who only ever believed her, would lock me in the basement. No food, no water, until I was half dead and begging for mercy. So this time, I refused to go to that elite school. Instead, I chose a public high school I could get into with my own grades. Right now, nothing in the Scott household mattered. As a senior in high school, studying hard and getting into a good university was my top priority. After that birthday, Grant and Bella moved to his villa. Mrs. Scott, wanting to repair her relationship with her daughter, moved in with them. Mr. Scott was always busy with work and traveled a lot, so most of the time, the massive Scott mansion was all mine. At home, no one bothered me. At school, there was no Bella bossing me around. I poured all my energy into studying. My grades kept improving. With better nutrition, my complexion grew fairer and my hair, once dry and yellow, became black and glossy. As I grew wealthier and more beautiful, I also became more confident and outgoing. Once the timid girl hiding in corners, now I blended easily in social circles and became popular at school, using the money Mr. Scott gave me, and my knowledge from my past life. I made 2 investments that were guaranteed to explode in value in the next few years. My bank balance kept growing. In my previous life, orphanage life had been so miserable, that when I was taken in by the Scotts, I thought if I just tried hard enough, if I earned their approval and love, they would become my safe harbor. But after dying once, I finally realized, the greatest storms in my life had come from these so-called family members. In this life, I broke free from the chains of family. I was no longer timid and self-deprecating. I loved myself, planned for myself, protected myself, and my world became sunny, vast, and wide open. Just when I was about to forget the Scotts entirely, Mrs. Scott suddenly reached out to me again. I was in the middle of class when my homeroom teacher called me out. It was Mrs. Scott. She'd called my teacher's phone, saying she had something urgent to discuss. In my previous life at a private school, students were allowed to carry phones. But at the public school I now attended, phones were banned, so Mrs. Scott had no choice but to contact my teacher directly. She spoke to me in her usual commanding tone. "Freya, come to XX Plaza right now." I replied, "I'm in class, take a leave, I'll talk to your teacher, you just get over here." In my last life, Mr. Scott, Mrs. Scott, and Grant would all call me like this, anytime, any place, one phone call, and I'd be expected to drop everything and come running. Having grown up starved for love, I didn't dare defy them. I always answered their summons without hesitation, and each time, panting and sweating from rushing over, they'd hand me some random trinket or a bit of food, tacking on a half-hearted line like, "We missed you," and I, foolishly touched and grateful, would gift them affection points one after another. Looking back now in this life, I realize, not one person in the Scott family ever truly cared about me. They never once saw me as family. Why would they miss me? All they needed was this NPC to keep themselves alive. They even ruined my college entrance exam. Mrs. Scott faked an illness and stopped me at the gates to use me for her mission. To meet their goals, they had no problem destroying my future, so it was clear she had come again for her mission this time, and I wasn't having it. I coldly refused. "I'm not taking leave." They were the ones who needed me. Yet she still acted superior. The me from this life wasn't going to crawl anymore. Apparently not expecting my outright rejection, Mrs. Scott paused for a second, then launched into a lecture. "China's education is outdated. You don't need to take it so seriously. We'll pay to send you abroad later. I really have something urgent." I'm hanging up. "Wait, Freya, you know why I can't get close to you? It's because you're not clingy like Bella. You don't show love, don't care about others. And that's why I struggle to care about you. You need to understand. Studying isn't everything for girls. You need to be obedient and sweet. That's what makes people love you. Oh, then go find your lovable Bella. Don't come to me, you." I ended the call, then I powered off the phone, before the line cut. I heard the system warning Mrs. Scott again. Reminder, the mission has a 1-year limit. If it fails, the host will be terminated. So the mission had a time limit. No wonder she was panicking. I could guess. She wasn't the only one getting desperate. That day after school, the driver who usually came for me had called in sick. I glanced at the calendar and knew another strategist was about to make a move. I quietly sent a text, then chose to take a taxi home, not long after we set off. The driver suddenly locked the doors. His expression turned hostile as he reached for my school bag. After finding my phone and hurling it out the window, he finally restarted the engine. He didn't stop until we reached a remote alley. There, he threw me out of the car. I didn't resist. If he told me to get out, I got out. The driver sped away. Moments later, 5 boys with brightly dyed hair surrounded me. It was just like in my past life. Same kind of alley, same kind of thugs. They yanked my hair, slapped my face, backed me into a corner, and started kicking me. Then, just like last time, Grant showed up. Like a hero descending from the sky, he saved me from the gang. He became my savior. I was deeply grateful. His affection points quickly surpassed 100. Later, he lied to me, saying the son of a major client had fallen for me. He begged me to help, just pretend to date the guy so he could secure a deal. He promised the act would end once the contract was signed. I had my doubts, but I couldn't bring myself to refuse the man who had saved my life, so I agreed. That date turned into my worst nightmare. Only after death did I learn, those gangsters who beat me were hired by Grant, the client's son, a violent bipolar patient Grant had deliberately chosen. Because the Scott family had all completed their missions, they didn't need me anymore, and Bella couldn't tolerate another daughter in the house. She had to be the Scott family's one and only princess. So Grant decided to erase me from the world entirely. He drugged the bipolar man and tricked me into a hotel room. In the struggle, I was pushed from the 20th floor. Now, the gangsters were closing in. Just then, a black car sped down the alley. It screeched to a halt, and 4 tall, muscular men jumped out. Without a word, they grabbed the thugs by the hair and started beating them down. These were professional bodyguards I had hired from a security agency. They had been tailing me, staying within a few meters of me at all times. Right before I hailed the taxi, I had texted them. They were all top fighters. 5 street thugs weren't even a warm-up. In no time, the gangsters were crying and screaming. They confessed everything. How Grant had paid them to do this. I doubled their pay, then gave new orders. When Grant arrives, turn against him. Sure enough, Grant showed up soon after, from the car at the alley's entrance. I watched with my bodyguards as the gang pinned Grant to a wall and beat him mercilessly. They had been furious after getting thrashed earlier by my guards, and now that I'd offered even more money, they held nothing back. Grant ended up with a broken leg, a fractured arm, and multiple rib fractures. He spent months in the hospital. Meanwhile, his affection points kept plummeting. During his stay, he had to endure not just physical pain, but also the agony of electric shock punishments triggered by the system. After Grant was discharged, whenever I was home for holidays, he and Mrs. Scott would move back in, but as soon as they arrived, I would go stay in a hotel. They wanted to see me, but I gave them no chance. With the college entrance exam approaching, I was busy, too busy for them, unable to reach me. They turned to Mr. Scott. Because the deadline was almost up, they were desperate, and among the three, Mr. Scott had the highest affection score, already over 80, but Mrs. Scott and Grant were deep in the negatives. One wrong move, and their scores would drop past -50, triggering another electric punishment. After being shocked so many times, they had been thoroughly broken. Neither of them had any temper left. After all, they were his son and his wife. Mr. Scott had always raised Grant as his heir. Naturally, he didn't want to see him destroyed over this, so Mr. Scott generously offered them his secret weapon, money. Ever since then, my bank card had been unusually busy during holidays. Every few days, another $50,000 or $100,000 would be transferred in. Looking at the long string of numbers in my account, I regretted my foolishness in my past life even more. I'd been so stupid. Money is wonderful. With money, I could buy whatever I wanted. It was far more satisfying than the Scott family's fake affection. After a month of non-stop money transfers, Grant and Mrs. Scott finally couldn't wait any longer and came to see me, because although all of them were sending me money, Mr. Scott's $50,000 transfers could boost his affection points by 5, sometimes even 10 points, but theirs, 50,000 only ever got them 1 point, and sometimes, nothing at all. With the one-year deadline drawing near, they were on the verge of losing their minds. Now, standing in front of me, the two of them looked utterly haggard. All the arrogance and self-righteousness they once displayed before me had vanished. For once, they humbled themselves in unison and said they wanted to invite me to dinner to discuss something important. With wealth now on my side, I wasn't difficult to talk to. I didn't make things hard. Sure, I said, but I'll decide the time. They both nodded eagerly. Of course, whatever you say, Freya. Wait for my call. Then, all right. With the college entrance exam right around the corner, I wasn't going to let them distract me. This time, I had fully prepared. The exam went smoothly. That summer, I received the admission letter from my dream university. It had been the biggest dream of my student life, though it took 2 lifetimes to achieve it. I finally made it. The Scott family booked a luxurious private room on the observation floor of a high-end hotel and sent me the location. I arrived nearly an hour early. Just outside the door, I overheard their conversation with the system. Mr. Scott asked anxiously, "System, we've already invited the target. She'll be here any minute. What's the fastest way to boost her affection points?" He'd spent a lot of money, worked hard to be attentive, and yet his affection points had stalled at 80. If he didn't die from mission failure soon, he'd die from the stress first. Honestly, the best method is to use real familial love to earn her heart. A happy family reunion would ensure everyone survives. Mrs. Scott was the first to grow impatient. "How many times do I have to tell you, Bella doesn't like Freya?" Grant added. "You can't expect us to hurt Bella just for some girl we don't even care about." "I can't do it. How can you say you don't care about her? Freya is your biological daughter, your real sister. If it comes to choosing, shouldn't blood come first?" Mr. Scott snapped. "Why are you saying so much? Bella is the one we raised with great care. She's the perfect socialite, trained to shine in high society. She'll be valuable in marriage alliances, something a nobody from an orphanage can't compete with." "Got it." Mrs. Scott choked up. "Bella grew up with us. She trusts us. She loves us. We're the only real family she knows. Freya barely feels like a stranger to us. We just can't love her. This is fate." Grant couldn't hold back and cursed. "Damn machine, what do you know? Cut the crap and just give us a method already. You want us to finish the mission or not? If loving her is so difficult for you, then use money." My system detected that the target's happiness spikes the most when she receives your transfers, and affection points increase fastest during those times. All three of them exploded. How much money have we already sent her? It's in the tens of millions. She's a bottomless pit. Typical orphan, greedy and shameless, so disgusting. If her affection level still hasn't reached 100, it means you haven't sent enough. There's only one method left. Give her all your assets. One big transfer, it'll guarantee success. Not a chance. Impossible. She's dreaming. Warning to all hosts. You now have 3 hours left. If her affection points are still not at 100 by then, you will all be terminated. You will vanish from this world. No matter how much money you have, you can't take it with you. The Scott family was speechless. Mr. Scott was the first to act. He called his lawyer to draft the necessary documents and bring them to the hotel immediately. Grant couldn't believe it. Dad, are you really going to give all that to that little bitch? What else do you want to do? Die together right now, Mr. Scott hissed in a low voice. Let's just survive this first. The Scott family has a vast fortune. You think a girl like her could ever truly control it? Stop worrying. Mrs. Scott finally came to her senses too and agreed quickly. Your dad's right. We're running out of time. With that, all three of them reached an agreement. Watching them scramble like ants, I didn't rush to enter. I waited in an empty private room next door until the appointed time before heading over. Mrs. Scott greeted me with unprecedented warmth, looping her arm through mine and beaming. Sweetheart, you worked so hard for your exams. To celebrate your college admission, your dad, your brother, and I all prepared gifts for you. Come and take a look. She handed me a thick stack of documents. Freya, these are all of Mom's assets. Company shares, properties, gold bars, savings. It's all here. It's been notarized. If anything happens to me, everything will be yours. Mr. Scott repeated the same lines, handing me a document pile even thicker than Mrs. Scott's. Grant also presented all his assets. They solemnly declared that if anything happened to them, everything from the Scott family would belong to me. The lawyer presented all three wills for my review. Just as they were about to sign, the door burst open. It was Bella, and behind her, a man. The moment I saw him, a chill ran down my spine. It was the same man Grant had introduced to me as a blind date in my previous life. The one with violent bipolar disorder. Everything clicked. So it was Bella who had helped Grant find that lunatic. It wasn't just Grant who wanted me dead. It was Bella too. While I was still in shock, the man had already lunged at me and wrapped his hands around my throat. Bella pointed and commanded, Bob, throw her out the window. I'll send you abroad. You'll never have to go back to the asylum again. The man dragged me toward the window, hands tightening around my neck. Bella, what are you doing? Sweetheart, tell him to stop. Sis, Freya can't die. The Scott family, frozen in horror, finally snapped out of it. The three of them rushed toward me in panic. Bella raised her voice sharply. Stay back, or I'll have him strangle her right now. All three froze, not daring to move. Bella, why? She ignored them and walked to the table, picked up the wills, and chuckled coldly. You made me do this. Do you know why I always insisted on being the only daughter of the Scott family? Because I want everything the Scotts own. Grant always listens to me. He won't fight me for it. But Freya doesn't obey. As long as she's around, she'll take what's mine. How could I tolerate that? And now, without even asking me, you're giving everything to her. And you ask me why I'm doing this. You've shown me no mercy. Don't blame me for returning the favor. I won't let her take a cent of what belongs to me. As the minutes ticked by, Mr. Scott roared in desperation. You don't understand. We had no choice. If you do this, we'll all die. Bella screamed back. You can't use my inheritance to save your lives. Didn't you always say you loved me? Then go die for me. Bella, your mom loves you so much. How could you throw her life away for money? Baby sis, you're lying. You wouldn't do this to your brother. You love me, don't you? You can't let me die. The three of them shouted in disbelief. Bella laughed. Love, are you kidding? If you lose your money, what use are you to me? She turned to the man and ordered coldly, hurry up and throw her out the window. The window creaked open. Suddenly, a dagger flew through the air and buried itself in the man's wrist. As he screamed in pain and loosened his grip, I broke free and ran. The dagger belonged to one of my bodyguards, who had been waiting in the room next door. I had instructed them to check on me every 5 minutes. Now, all four of them rushed in. I ordered them to detain both the man and Bella in the same hotel room where I'd been pushed off the roof in my last life. They were to cut off all outside communication, lock the room, and guard the door until further notice. Bella was not to escape. Countdown, 1 minute to mission deadline. Mr. Scott, Mrs. Scott, and Grant no longer had the time to grieve Bella's betrayal, nor could they care that she had been taken away by my people. One by one, they frantically rushed back to the table, grabbed the wills, and signed them at lightning speed. Then they placed them before me and desperately recited their declarations of affection like a script. Daughter, from now on, Daddy will love you and spoil you even more. Freya, I'm so sorry. I can't believe I once ignored you for that ungrateful wretch. Mommy won't do that ever again. From now on, I'll only love you, sis. You're my real sister, forever and always. But as they spoke, their voices grew fainter, their faces turned pale, and finally, they collapsed one by one. Time's up, mission failed, host terminated. Time's up, mission failed. Host terminated. Time's up, mission failed, host terminated. When they died, their eyes were wide open in shock, filled with confusion, unwillingness, resentment. They didn't understand. They had done exactly what the system instructed, so why had they still failed? But I knew, after what I went through in my previous life, after seeing through their lies and manipulation, I no longer loved them, so no matter how much they gave me, they could never gain the affection points they needed. The final outcome, their deaths, was one they chose with their own hands. Like Mrs. Scott once said, everything is fate. If they had to blame someone, they could blame fate. Not long after, I heard news of Bella. Apparently, she had checked into a hotel with a man, unaware that he was a violent bipolar patient. A fight broke out in the room. The man pushed her off the 20th floor of the building. I became the sole legal heir of the Scott family. I now held billions in assets. One day, I heard a familiar electronic voice. Hello, real daughter. I'm the system that was previously bound to the Scott family. It told me it was born out of the many unjust stories in the world, of real daughters abandoned and unloved. From the moment I was created, I swore to be a good system, to make sure every real daughter who wasn't loved could finally receive love. But I failed in my first mission. I'm sorry. My heart warmed. It's not your fault. Human emotions can't be controlled. You've already helped me so much. Thank you, really. I'm so glad I could help you. But I've learned something from this experience too. If I can't help them get love, then I'll help them get lots and lots of money, because I've realized, money seems to make you humans much happier than love. I'm off now, to complete my next mission. You be happy, too, okay? I smiled. I am happy, because I met you, the best system in the world. I hope all your future missions go smoothly and successfully, and I also hope that all the daughters still struggling in the darkness will one day meet such a kind system, find the light, and receive the happiness they truly deserve. I'm the best system in the whole wide world. Haha, I'm the best system in the world. The system hummed a cheerful tune as it bounced away. I waved hard at the sky, watching the round, glowing white ball bounce farther and farther away, until it disappeared beyond the horizon. After hearing the first story above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. Next, let's continue to see another similar story. I transmigrated into a dead girl novel, becoming the real daughter who was abused physically and emotionally, and who could only prove her worth by dying in the end. According to the plot, I was supposed to endure everything in silence, suffer countless injustices, and die a tragic death, but I have an innate antisocial personality. I don't like taking losses. Besides, who said the heroine is the only one who has to die in this kind of death girl story? When I entered this world, the heroine already had a knife to her throat. It was the engagement banquet of her ex-fiancé and her fake younger sister. She already didn't want to live. On top of that, her older brother had rushed over to scold her, with the blade at her neck. The mocking voices in front of her hadn't stopped. According to the plot, in 3 seconds, the heroine would stab the knife into her own throat. This act would shock her brother, Mason, who thought she was just pretending. From that point on, he'd be filled with regret and beg her not to die. But she'd refuse. In the end, he'd watch helplessly as she died, haunted by guilt for the rest of his life. But now, I glanced around. the heroine had apparently climbed all the way to the rooftop of a 24-story building, probably afraid she wouldn't die otherwise. I took a step closer to the edge of the rooftop. Sure enough, my brother's expression began to shift, but he was still trying to talk tough. You can't compare to Sarah in the slightest. Of course people like her more. But if you just change that temper of yours, maybe people would accept you. The next moment, I stabbed my arm with the knife and turned as if to jump off. My brother's face changed instantly. He rushed forward like a human-controlled NPC trying to stop me, but I sidestepped, dodging him, and pushed forward with my hand. He lost his balance and half his body slipped off the edge. Stella, save me, save your brother. He clung to the railing with one hand, his face pale, staring at me in terror. Meanwhile, I calmly wiped the fruit knife's handle clean of blood. His face twisted with fury. Why, I just tried to save you, and this is what you do. He was almost out of strength, his outstretched arm trembling violently, blue veins bulging at his temples. Just as he was losing all hope, I slowly walked toward him. Seeing me approach, his eyes lit up. I reached out a hand. He hurriedly gave me his suspended hand. I grabbed him, just enough to leave my fingerprints on the now clean knife handle. Then, with a peaceful smile, I bid him farewell. Goodbye, I said. As your blood relative, and in gratitude for your willingness to save me, I'll cry at your grave after you die. Then I pried his fingers off the railing one by one. With a scream, the heroine's brother plummeted to his death. His sudden fall shattered the fake daughter Sarah and my ex-fiancé's engagement banquet. The police were quickly called. When they rushed up to the rooftop, they found me curled in a corner, trembling. He tried to kill me, then slipped and fell. I looked up. Eyes full of tears, blood still dripping from the wound on my arm. The police soon found the knife lying nearby. Stella, what did you do? Sarah charged at me hysterically, trying to hit me. My childhood fiancé and biological father stood watching, arms folded, doing nothing. Only the nearby police officer stepped in to stop her. Thinking of how Mason was now a bloody mess on the pavement below, I felt a wave of satisfaction. Though my expression was as pitiful as ever. It was all for you, I sobbed. Pointing at Sarah, brother said that if I disappeared, no one would criticize you for stealing my fiancé. He died because of you. My accusations changed Sarah's expression instantly. She turned, sneaking a glance at our father's face, then burst into tears. You're talking nonsense, sister. Hate me all you want, but brother is already dead. How can you smear him like this? Then my ex-fiancé Zane rushed over and shielded her in his arms. She's the one who saved my life back then. She's the one I've always wanted to marry. Stella, stop being so delusional. Finally, my father could no longer hold back. He stormed over and raised his hand to slap me, right in front of the police. The officer had already tried to stop him, but as we were being taken to the police car, I leaned close to his ear and whispered cheerfully, "Old man, you're out of airs now." He froze, staring at me in disbelief. "It was you? You killed Mason." Driven by rage, he grabbed my neck. "Help. They're trying to kill me," I cried, curling into the arms of the female officer. "They want to kill me for Sarah's sake." Not far away, the media's flashing cameras went off like clockwork. Mason's fall was quickly ruled an accident. There was no choice. The police couldn't find a shred of evidence. Fans of tragic novels know, when the heroine tries to die, the surveillance always just happens to fail, and eyewitnesses are nowhere to be found. Then her friends and family claim she's being dramatic, demand she be more understanding, and tell her to sacrifice herself. When even her death becomes an excuse for others to attack her, she finally gives up on life. It's a setup that's easy to exploit. Coming here felt like entering paradise. 3 days later, I was released from the police station. Online, the scandal had blown up. Everyone wanted in on the juicy secrets of this elite family, especially when the headlines were about a fake daughter pushing out the real one and a father killing his own child. The situation might have been salvageable in the first 24 hours, but unfortunately for the family, the old man suffered a heart attack after strangling me. He ended up hospitalized. By the time he was back to handle the damage, things had spiraled out of control. Scandals flooded the media, Martin family businesses took a nosedive, and stock prices plummeted. Sarah and Zane's wedding was indefinitely postponed. Despite their PR efforts, netizens dug up everything. including how Sarah had stolen her sister's engagement. Sarah was a top-tier celebrity, so despite the backlash, her fans still tried to defend her. An engagement isn't marriage. Zayn just chose the person he truly loves. That's not cheating. Rich people are always like this. It was a political engagement. He just found his true love. Of course, those comments were quickly buried by public outrage and gleefully archived by Sarah's haters as eternal memes, but none of it changed the fact that Norman had lost a son and postponed a daughter's wedding within 3 days. While he lay in the hospital, he wanted nothing more than to stab me, but to salvage the family name. He had no choice but to smile for the cameras and play nice. The day I walked out of the police station, he had called in a crowd of reporters to meet me at the door. He hurried over with arms open, trying to hug me. "Stella, I'm so sorry for what you've been through," he said. "Let's go home. I had the nanny cook all your favorite dishes." I smiled faintly, but my gaze passed over him to the cameras behind. The next second, I dropped to the ground, shrieking, "Don't hit me, please. I'm sorry. I'll give everything to Sarah. Just please stop hitting me." Tears streamed down my face. Every word as clear as crystal, combined with my Oscar-worthy sobs and trembling. The reporters around us all glanced at one another, then the shutters erupted like gunfire. Norman's face turned darker by the second. He crouched down, gripping my arm like a vice, trying to pull me up, but I didn't budge. He feigned concern while whispering coldly in my ear, "What the hell do you want?" I raised my head and flashed a full-toothed smile. "Daddy, Sarah's at home. I'm afraid you'll try to kill me again for her. I'm scared. I'm not going back." His grip tightened. Norman took a deep breath, calming himself. Then, wearing a fatherly smile, he said, "Sarah isn't a bad kid, you just misunderstand her. But if you really don't want to see her, I'll have her move out. She'll understand." He tried to steer the media into thinking I was being irrational. I simply smiled and said nothing. Sometimes, silence creates the most vivid speculation, and just like that, I returned to the Martin family. In the original story, after the real daughter was kicked out, she only returned as a black and white photo. To come back, she had begged every member of the family, even Sarah. Sarah had smiled sweetly and told her to come for dinner. The original believed her and left with tears of gratitude. That night, when she arrived, she found the entire family had gone to the movies to support Sarah's new film. She was mistaken for a thief by the new security guard and beaten before being thrown out. This family she had given her heart to, never opened its door to her while she was alive. But I was different. I was welcomed back. In fact, before I even set foot in the door, Sarah had already been kicked out in disgrace. It proves one thing: when it comes to heartless people, begging gets you nowhere. Only by seizing their interests can you take control. Even as I entered the house, the camera flashes outside never stopped. Norman, however, had dropped his act, having just lost a son and rushed straight from the hospital to manage the crisis. He was clearly exhausted. "Tell me, what's your endgame?" Norman looked at me, weary. Back in this house, the original me had always been invisible to Norman. He already had Mason, the perfect heir, and Sarah knew how to please them. Whether I stayed or was kicked out made no difference to him. He didn't care if I lived or died. In the original story, it wasn't until after I died and Sarah, the daughter they had cherished, stabbed him viciously in the back, that he finally began to remember the real daughter's kindness, especially in his bleak old age. When he stumbled upon her old diaries, he was consumed by guilt and longing. But now, his son was dead, and the daughter he liked had been cast out. He was forced to finally look me in the eye. I didn't waste words. "Mason is dead. You're getting old. I'm your only direct heir now. Transfer your company shares to me." "Stella, I'm not dead yet, and you owe me an explanation for Mason's death." Norman was enraged. His voice boomed, his stare cold and oppressive, the kind that came from years of authority. But I just looked at him calmly, with a hint of disgust. I wasn't afraid of him. His threats were meaningless to me. Our silent standoff didn't last long. It was like he was seeing me for the first time. He gave me a once-over, then sighed and softened his tone. "Stella, you've changed," I countered coldly. "Do you even remember what I used to be like?" He looked momentarily embarrassed, as if he wanted to say something else, when a middle-aged woman in a long gown, her eyes red from crying, suddenly charged down the stairs. "You dare come back, you murderer!" You killed Mason and now you come back. What, are you trying to kill me too? She wailed as she ran toward me. This once elegant socialite now looked like a lunatic. She tried to slap me, but before her hand could even rise, I slapped her across the face, hard. Look at yourself, screeching like a madwoman. What kind of mother are you supposed to be? I scolded coldly. She was stunned, hair matted to her swollen cheek, unable to respond. Before she could react, I slapped her again, twice. One blow turned her head, the next forced it back. Her eyes turned bloodshot as she held her face and stared at me in hatred. You bitch, you jinx, give me back my Mason. But I couldn't return him. Her beloved Mason had hit the ground too hard. There was nothing left to piece together. This woman, who loved her son more than life, had spoiled him into arrogance and stupidity. When he watched his sister suffer, he looked away and did nothing. In their eyes, sacrificing one person for the family's image was perfectly acceptable. As long as that person wasn't themselves, a few kind words here and there were the most they ever offered, and they'd pat themselves on the back for being so compassionate. Well, now their golden boy was dead, and the golden boy's mother had cracked. Her gaze was wild, as if she wanted to rip a chunk of flesh from my body. She had looked at the original me the same way, when I was first brought back to the Martin family. There are mothers in this world who are born to resent their daughters. Even the ones they carried for 10 months. Now, I watched as she crept backward, her hand quietly grabbing a dinner knife from the table. She raised it high, aiming to stab me, but this time, the one who stopped her wasn't me, it was Norman, my biological father. He grabbed her wrist as she screamed and struggled violently. She lashed out at Norman. You coward, you gutless excuse for a father. Your son is dead and you won't even take revenge for him. The more she ranted, the darker Norman's face became. Finally, he snapped and slapped her across the face. I told you before we even got home, Mason's death has nothing to do with Stella. What are you doing? Trying to create more scandals for the Martin family. His furious scolding seemed to bring her back to reality. She looked up and locked eyes with the man who had doted on her for half a lifetime. Norman looked regretful and tried to console her, but she suddenly screamed, shoved him away, and fled upstairs in a frenzy. The housemaid quickly chased after her. Norman turned back to me, exhausted. He no longer had the energy to argue. He got straight to the point. Stella, what do you want? I've already told you. I want everything the Martin family owns. I smiled and walked past him, taking a seat at the dining table and casually started eating. In the reflection of the gleaming dinner knife, I could see Norman's darkened eyes, and the murderous intent he didn't even try to hide. Sometimes, making someone disappear is quite easy. The only question is what sacrifice you're willing to make, and that depends on how difficult your opponent is. By the third week back at the Martin estate, Mason's mother had lost her mind completely. She often screamed Mason's name around the house, laughing and talking to thin air. Sarah, on the other hand, was desperate to move back in. Her being kicked out had all but confirmed the previous scandal, no matter how many PR agents Zane hired. Nothing could stop her from becoming a public disgrace. As for my negotiations with Norman, there was none. He wanted me to consider the Martin family's image, publicly clear the air, and take all the blame upon myself. I wanted him to die, preferably with his wife and adopted daughter too, because I didn't want to share a cent of the inheritance. We had no common ground. So, like always, he went to work that day. Still hadn't made plans to bring me into the company. Before leaving, he solemnly told his wife to take good care of me, then instructed the housekeepers to watch me. As soon as he left, the maids locked all the doors and drew all the curtains. Mason's mother was smiling too sweetly. It was unsettling. No madness, no screams. She simply called me to lunch in a soft, gentle tone, but the madness in her eyes was just buried deeper. She approached and linked arms with me affectionately, then glanced at my phone screen and asked casually, Stella, who are you chatting with? Reporters, I replied. Actually, I revised, more accurately, the #1 gossip reporter in the industry. Our family's been making headlines lately. He reached out, said he'd report me missing if I didn't confirm a specific code phrase every 3 hours. I smiled and waved the phone at her. He knows a lot of secrets, might even have one or two you'd like to hear. She merely smiled back, unfazed. She led me to the dining room, saying she had prepared a feast just for me. Sarah was there too, already seated, calm and poised. I already knew, from the hidden cameras I installed last night, that the glass of red wine in front of me had been tampered with, and there was a faint smell of diesel in the air, not to mention the fearful expressions the maids wore when they left. I felt a secret thrill. The Martin family had finally run out of patience, and this time, a lot of people wanted me gone. Sarah, seated beside Mason's mother, knew exactly what was coming. She didn't bother hiding the malice in her eyes. She gave me a taunting smile, then wrapped her arm around Mason's mother affectionately, as if waiting for me to break down again, but I just lowered my eyes to my phone screen. Messages from my most recent contact were still popping up. Are you sure about this? No one in the Martin family is safe. If you stay, it might cost you your life, of course. If you choose to stay, I've got buyers offering big money for exclusive dirt on Sarah. Whatever you need, I've got the material, just say the word. I glanced at my phone, smiled, and turned off the screen. Then, I stood up, picked up the glass of wine, and dumped it all over Sarah. As she screamed, I flipped the table over, then grabbed her collar and slapped her across the face. Before either of them could react, I grabbed Sarah's perfect hair and slammed her head into the cold wall, once, twice, until blood streamed from her forehead, soaking her face. Mason's mother shrieked and lunged at me. The next second, I pressed a sharp steak knife to Sarah's throat. A thin line of blood instantly welled up on her pale, delicate skin. Let me know when you're ready for the next part. Tell me what your plan was for today, I said with a smile to the trembling Sarah. Across from me, Mason's mother hesitated at the sight of Sarah in danger. She instinctively turned to shout for the villa's servants, but the servants had long since vanished. After the doors and windows were sealed shut, they had quietly withdrawn. This villa had become a sealed cage, and in the hostess's pocket was the only key to the outside world. I was in an excellent mood. The tip of my knife slowly traced upward, grazing Sarah's beautiful cheek. My patience is limited, don't make me wait too long, I whispered, leaning close to her ear. If we drag this out, and the fire starts, no one's getting out alive. Sarah's body trembled violently. Her eyes widened in terror, but blood blurred her vision. Still dizzy, she tried to smile at me ingratiatingly, relying on instinct. She looked so ridiculous I couldn't help but whistle. If you want to stage an accident, I said, you need to control the timing. You lot are way too cautious with your murder plots, so I helped you by moving the explosion up 30 minutes. Sarah jolted, her legs barely able to hold her. Her voice was shaky and incoherent. It was Mom. Mom called me here. She said today was the day for revenge. She told me to come witness you get what you deserve. I glanced at the surveillance camera still whirring above us. My mood was getting better, so I kept asking, and what exactly were you planning to do? Sarah flinched, trying to avoid my gaze. But I tightened my grip on her neck, and after a brief moment of suffocation, she spilled everything. We were going to drug you, then take pictures and videos, post them online, say you were indecent, that you brought it all on yourself. Once your reputation was destroyed, I'd get sympathy again. Her voice was choked with tears. Of course, if she couldn't clear her name, she'd make me an imperfect victim instead. Sarah was smart. She knew society is always harsher to the weak. Whose idea was it? I asked next. It was Imo. She tried to lie, but the knife pressed into her skin. A bright drop of blood slid down her cheek. Sarah snapped and screamed. It was me. It was all me. Everything you went through after you returned home. I planned it all. I was wrong. Stella, please let me go. I'll give you whatever you want. She begged with tears and snot running down her face. I smiled. In school, you bullied a classmate so badly she developed severe depression and attempted suicide. After entering the entertainment industry, you drugged your rival actress and lured her to a famous director's bed, then exposed her and took her place. Did they beg you for mercy too? Sarah froze. Tears washed away the dried blood on her cheeks, carving two grotesque channels. How do you know that? She whispered. Stunned, I didn't answer. I just smiled again. When they begged you, I said, you told them people are born unequal. That trash like them existed to make you feel better. You showed them no mercy, so now, I won't show you any either. Realizing what was coming, Sarah thrashed wildly, screaming for Mason's mother to save her. Her shrill voice irritated me. I grabbed her hair and smashed her head against the wall. Hard, the world fell silent. Sarah passed out cold. Finally, I had time to look at the woman standing across from me. The woman the original me once called Mother. A title she never once earned. Your son ruined his own sister to protect this kind of person, I said, and he died for it, and even now, you're still protecting her. As if she had expected this question, Mason's mother sneered. Her eyes brimmed with twisted hatred. So what? She spat. As long as Sarah was someone Mason wanted to protect, I'll always keep her safe, she added. You're nothing but a filthy girl from the slums. You could never understand the bond between me and my son. If it was his wish, I would do anything to make it come true. Her self-righteousness was almost funny. I thought of how she used to chase after Mason, doting on him constantly, only for him to respond with cold indifference. I laughed, unable to hide the venom in my tone. You sure loved your son, I said. Too bad, he only cared about Sarah. He mentioned her to me 100 times and never once said your name. Her smile froze. From the day I returned home, I continued, Mason told me Sarah was the most important person to him. He told me not to bully her. He said it over and over. But he never mentioned you. Look at yourself. You were nothing more than Sarah's servant. The words hit her hard. She opened her mouth, ready to retort, but I interrupted. If you were truly one of the people Mason cared about, why did he ask you to protect Sarah, and not the other way around? I leaned close, grinning as her expression twisted into something feral. Looks like the crown prince chose his woman over his mom. The next moment, Mason's mother screamed and clutched her ears. She couldn't take any more. I looked down at her, relishing her collapse. I remembered how she once stood above the original me in her pristine white dress, elegant brows furrowed in disdain, shattering any illusion of kindness. She once said, I don't feel safe letting Mason spend time with such an uncultured girl from the slums. She'd never bothered to hide her disgust. The last time the original Stella heard such words was at Sarah's engagement party. When Mason's mother told her best friend over the phone, that girl is a jinx, we abandoned her once. How could she come crawling back? That's when Stella finally understood. She was hated not because of who she was, but because, when she was born, her husband and son went to see her first, instead of comforting their wife and mother, who had nearly died in childbirth. Such an absurd reason, and yet it had ruined an entire life. Still, people kept telling her, your parents love you. They just don't know how to show it. Her life had begun in lies, and ended in lies. Now the camera above continued to record. I looked at the crazed woman before me, and my lips curled into a cold smile. Sarah just wanted to ruin my reputation, but you, as a mother, you wanted me dead. I let out a dramatic sigh. I don't know if you're truly insane or just faking it, but I'm sure Norman already arranged a psychiatric evaluation for you, if I accidentally died at the hands of a grieving, mentally unstable mother. The Martin family could walk away spotless. You were going to kill us both. Then Norman would announce you acted out of sorrow and lost control. He'd pretend to mourn the loss of his beloved wife, and no one would suspect a thing. Mason's mother's eyes turned vicious. She suddenly turned and ran toward the kitchen. But I was ready. I grabbed her and yanked her back. Don't be in such a rush. Let's watch something first. I pulled out my phone, smiling, opened my chat with the gossip reporter and played the audio. Sarah's voice filled the room. Her agent asked how to handle the PR crisis. Sarah snapped back. Blame Stella if you can, and if that doesn't work, pin it on Mason. If he hadn't butted in and gotten himself killed, none of this would have happened. Useless idiot. The recording continued to play. I pointed to the unconscious Sarah. I said slowly. The one your son tried so hard to protect is planning to make him the scapegoat. Even in death, she calls him trash, tisk, a simp and a fool, just like his mom, and that was it. If she could protect Sarah for Mason's sake, then she could just as easily turn on Sarah once Mason's name was dragged through the mud. In that moment, she made her choice. Mason's mother turned and walked toward Sarah. I now held the house key I'd slipped from her coat pocket. I sneered, turned around, and walked out the front door. Shortly after I left the villa, the fire ignited. Neither Mason's mother nor Sarah escaped the blaze. Later, rescuers said Sarah had regained consciousness. She'd made it to the door, only to be pulled back by Mason's mother. They died together on the doorstep. When Norman arrived at the hospital, he was already sobbing. He called out for me, and Mason's mother. Then, suddenly, I tapped his shoulder from behind, wrapped him in a warm hug. I have good news and bad news, I said, looking up with wide, innocent eyes. Good news is, I survived. The Martin family still has an heir, and the bad news, I smiled brightly, peering over his shoulder, where a pair of uniformed police officers were approaching. Bad news is, you're going to prison. Right then, the officers stepped forward. Mr. Martin, one said, you are under arrest for conspiracy to commit murder. Please come with us. Norman was taken away, and I couldn't escape either. I used videos saved on my phone to accuse Norman of inciting murder. I was also suspected of excessive self-defense. When I was released, Norman had already been bailed out. Even half a day earlier than me, Zane had bailed him out. This former prospective father-in-law truly went above and beyond for Zane. Just as I was thinking about where to go next, my phone suddenly buzzed. He sent me an address. The dirt on Sarah he'd caught at the villa had earned him a hefty profit. Sarah wanted to be the internet's white moonlight, perfectly pure beloved, but even in death, she was doomed to infamy with no chance of ascension. The paparazzi invited me to a celebration party. I gladly accepted. At the venue, I saw the two people I expected, my father and my former fiancé. Their faces were equally gloomy. Eyes filled with hatred. Zane wore a pure white suit, tall and poised, mourning Sarah in his own way, the little girl who had once saved him during an accident, warming his bleak childhood. Norman stood behind him, looking older, his face pale and sickly, though out on bail. The suspicion still clung to him, and public opinion only grew worse. Pressure mounted from the company. The Martin family could not allow a disgraced man to hold power. If Norman stayed in charge, an investigation was inevitable. In the past, he had dirty hands in building his fortune. Now middle-aged, he was like a rat to be swept out. Stella, you truly are my daughter, he said cruelly. I was blind. I should have eliminated you when you first returned. A cornered old fox's threat held no fear for me. I smiled indifferently and looked at Zane. Mr. Martin, I understand you were forced to act personally. But Zane, what about you? Stella, shut up. Zane's poisonous gaze landed on me. I should have known you were a vicious woman. Rest assured, I will avenge Sarah myself. Just wait till you burn in hell and apologize to her. Hearing this, I involuntarily admired him. I had been short-sighted before, failing to realize the depth of his feelings. Before meeting Sarah, he said the original was the only rose in this vulgar world. After meeting Sarah, he called her the purest jasmine in the world. The book was never fully read. Cheating yet unrepentant, they tied me up. When I was transferred from the dark alley, I saw a flickering, dilapidated street lamp and nearby cameras. Readers of tragic novels know, if the heroine is kidnapped, the nearby cameras are always conveniently broken. But what they don't know, a week before, I witnessed a minor traffic accident here. That very night, I made 20 reports non-stop. The corner camera was repaired long ago. I lay quietly in the trunk, watching the city lights brighten as the car door closed. Then the world faded to black. In the darkness, I slowly smiled. Tonight, there would be a show. Fans of tragic novels know the childhood savior of the domineering CEO is often the heroine, but she always has reasons not to reveal it, giving the second female lead the chance to take credit. Then the hero and heroine engage in hundreds of episodes of heartbreak and torment. When Zane took me to the destination, I immediately spoke up. I told him I was the one who truly saved him. Naturally, Zane didn't believe me. It took some convincing. I told him every little detail of our time together, how Sarah stole my token, but it was a fake, the one he gave me, I treasured deeply. I told him I knew the scar on his butt, from when a wolf dog bit us trying to escape after being kidnapped. I was the one who medicated him. None of it moved him, until I showed him the bracelet. The very bracelet the hero was supposed to find after the heroine's death. Crying through the night, Zane trembled violently. In these novels, CEOs always have a fetish for tokens. The real love is in the engagement gifts they give the heroine. Meanwhile, Norman kept pressuring Zane to kill me. Zane, kill her. Avenge Mason and Sarah. Kill her fast. She's a curse. She'll destroy us all. His tone grew more frenzied, the calm rational businessman gone. So I did my best to cry innocent tears and bid Zane farewell. He won't spare me, I said. He helped Sarah steal my things, now Sarah's dead, he'll want my life. My well-timed lies shocked Norman like I was once shocked by Sarah's accusations. What followed was uncontrollable rage, but it was useless. No one believed him. People's hearts are biased. Before, they favored Sarah, now Zane favored me. His gaze toward Norman turned hostile. I cried on cue, "You should go, Zane. He's still my father. If he wants to kill me for his adopted daughter, I won't regret it, but next life. I don't want to meet any of you again." A timely excuse, a show of weakness, and a hint of temptation and deceit, like suggesting that without Norman, I would have stayed with Zane forever, even if it meant being his caged canary, like screaming for help when a furious Norman lunged at me, then kicking a dagger near Zane's feet. At last, Zane picked up the dagger and stabbed Norman's back, once, twice, thrice, until Norman breathed his last. Then I whispered with a smile in Zane's ear, "I lied just now. Maybe Sarah was really your savior, but it doesn't matter. The one who wants your life now is me." When the police arrived, I fled tearfully through the ruined gate. The police quickly surrounded the place, and Zane, blood-soaked and wild-eyed, chased after me. His pure white suit was drenched in blood, his eyes bloodshot, completely insane, like a cornered beast making a last desperate attack. He only wanted us to die together. Behind him lay Norman, bleeding out and lifeless. Zane roared, demanding I pay for Sarah's death. I had almost escaped, but stumbled on some gravel, scraping my exposed skin. Terrified, I looked back just as Zane's blade came toward my head, so close it brushed my brow. I smiled broadly at him. The next second, a gunshot rang out. Blood burst from Zane's chest. In his shocked eyes, I slowly mouthed, "Bye." Footsteps converged. I lowered my head and trembled, crying helplessly. A female officer rushed to hold me. We limped away together. When I looked up, dawn was breaking. At the police station, tears still flowed. The gentle officer who comforted me was replaced. The newcomer stared sharply, her eyes like a hawk's. She said, "After police investigation, the fatal wounds on Norman's body were caused by Zane. But, Miss Martin, we detected residual psychiatric drugs in Norman's system. These drugs, if taken in excess over time, cause insomnia, hallucinations, mental blockages, agitation, irritability, and extreme behavior. They may have contributed to Norman's decision to kidnap you. As far as we know, only you had access to these drugs in the Martin family. Why were they found in Norman's body?" I froze, then buried my face in my hands, sobbing. The sick one was always him, but they were too afraid of losing face to get the prescriptions under their own names, so they used mine. Then realization hit. I wept harder. He must have lost his mother, brother, and sister all at once. He needed such strong drugs, so it was all because of the medication. I forgive him now. I wasn't worried about her checking. Over the years, Sarah and Mason's mother had gotten many prescriptions in my name, though their true intent was to drive me, a normal person, insane with medication. Now that they were both dead, no one could refute me. In the end, all their absurd deeds would only prove my innocence today. When I left the police station, the sun was shining. The female officer who interrogated me stood by the door, watching me intently. I knew she wouldn't give up easily, but that was fine. All I ever did in this game was fight back. I was never the one to release malice first. Human hearts are like lamps fueled by dirty swamp gas. I was just the spark that set it all ablaze, and that made me helpless. 3 months later, I officially took over the Martin family business. While sitting in the CEO's office handling messages, a notification popped up on my phone, news that the top paparazzo had sneaked into the Villa district to secretly film a celebrity's private life, but accidentally fell to his death. At that moment, the long-delayed system finally appeared in my mind. "Congratulations, host. You have successfully bound to the dead literature system." Before it could finish, a sharp electronic voice distorted in my head. "How come all the main characters are dead?" "Yes, they're all dead. That's why I have forgiven them and am willing to bear the consequences," I said in a solemn tone, flipping through the quarterly financial report in my hands, trying to capture the feeling of the CEO in dead literature, that profound regret and loneliness after losing true love. I smiled broadly at my reflection in the floor-to-ceiling window. Losing one's dearest and most beloved, holding great wealth, living a lifetime steeped in the severe consequences of regret. After hearing the two stories above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. Looking forward to hearing from you. If you liked this story, don't forget to like it, share it, and subscribe to my channel. See you next time.